Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tosh Customs, and today we are looking at the new SexyIce2019 Manticora figure. It's right after Thanksgiving. This got delivered to me on Thanksgiving Day. I don't know how, but we have the figure here and I'm ready to crack it open. First, here's the packaging right here. As you can see, there's a really nice matte finish against this gloss print of the Manticora figure. We have the labeling up front. This is a part of the Unkval Vermin series, so this is the third entry that they have in the line. And then coming around to the back, some cool little bug beetle symbol and some stuff written, presumably in Mandarin here, and then some final warnings. So I've already cut the little plastic tabs that stick the box in place here. So let's get this thing cracked open and take a look at what we got. So the very first figure that some people might not be aware of was they made a female looking mantis figure that was sort of in this bug theme. And then after that, their more popular release was the Eliminator and the Eliminator Squad, which is sort of the sort of like these enforcers that are supposed to hunt down these bug monsters. And so now we have our next entry, which is, I believe, supposed to be based off some kind of beetle. So, like a horned beetle. So, like all the releases, we have this nice little cover art here sitting up front. And you can actually see the battle damage version of the Manticora, which we'll be able to get into soon. So now here's what we have straight out of the packaging. We have the accessory pack up here, as well as the figure in the back clamshell. And, ooh, check this out. Looks like we have an instruction manual here with some extra either wrist or ankle joints. We'll find out. And then we also do get, I pre-ordered mine, and so I was able to get their special edition Eliminator head keychain. So that's a fun little bonus there as well. So putting the rest of the packaging to the side here, let's take a look at the little special edition piece first. Why don't we? Let's pop this guy out of the clamshell and see what we're dealing with here. It's in a clamshell, it's wrapped in a little plastic baggie, and looks like the head is just up on a string here. And we have some plastic that's sitting in between the, I guess I'm just supposed to pull this out. Yeah, you just tear the plastic out from between. So this is a little keychain version of the Eliminator head that you get as a part of the accessory pack. It's this battle damaged head, and it sort of looks like the face is being blown outward. So fun little bonus. I'm not quite a fan of this unpainted, primer gray color, but I mean, details come out really nicely here. And let me adjust the light a little bit so we can get some more contrast. Details come out really nice, beautiful sculpt. And this is the same sculpt that we're getting with the accessory. So in some ways you can appreciate it more without all the paintwork. I love this a lot. So fun little thing. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm a sucker for limited edition and pre-order bonuses. So I have it anyways. All right, so let's dive into the accessory pack here, so we can see all the fun little extra goodies that this guy comes with. So we'll set the main figure as well off to the side for the time being. Let's see what they got cooking up in here. We have quite a few interchangeable parts, which I'm quite excited about. This is something that they haven't done before, really. At least not with their Eliminator figures, which is the interchangeable, some interchangeable attachments. So we'll get the first thing out of the way, which is the interchangeable head for the Unkval Eliminator. As you can see, this one is painted. We have that same very nice matte gunmetal finish across most of the helmet, along with the chrome spikes, the chrome rebreather filters, and then they painted the skull and teeth very nicely. I actually think that this paint application is a bit better than the original heads we got with the Unkval Eliminator. So I really like this paint job. I really like the flesh tones, the pinks and the deep red washes we get Very gnarly. Very, very pretty. And I believe that this head actually, I'll pull the, yeah, there we go. Check that out. So this whole neck piece here, you can make it look like the Manticora has ripped out the head with some of the spine. You get a little bit of gore in there. But alternatively, you can pop this whole section out here, and then you can actually fit this on your Unkval Eliminator figure. So my Eliminator has been a little bit modded. I 3D printed some spikes and gave him a little bit of a new paint job. But let's pop this head off here, and let's plug on this new one. And there we go. Oh, very, very nice and easy connection. And check that out. That's gnarly. The paint match is perfect, as you know you would expect it to be. But man, that is pretty rad. I might just leave him posed like this, even though I'm not having him in any battle or anything like that. That's just pretty. Very cool. So that's a pretty fun accessory that you get off to the side. And alternatively now, you can also take it with your, you have this now neck accessory piece. You can take it with your normal heads and go plug it in. So maybe the whole face isn't exploding, but you can just have other dudes' heads getting ripped out of their necks. So that's kind of fun. Pretty gnarly, but kind of fun. So let's look at the other accessories now. We have quite a few. So starting off, let's look at the hands. So he's got a number of hands here. Let's see if I can pull these out of the clamshell. You know what? We're gonna go for the dump method, boys. All right, let's get into it. So starting off, we have a pair of fisted hands. I was originally worried that the finish was going to look a lot like the Unkval Eliminator, and it somewhat does. But here, let's bring in the other head here for comparison. This has a much glossier finish, and the speckling is a little bit more frequent. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but the finish feels a little bit more shell-like because it does feel like there's this gloss layer sitting over the gunmetal. However, the tones are very similar. This one is ever so slightly lighter, and I think it's just because there's a little bit more silver mixed into this gunmetal paint. But yeah, they're definitely, you know, in less harsh lighting, it would be hard to distinguish the paint jobs, and I think that's maybe something Sexy Ice could have taken into consideration when doing the paint job for this figure. I've seen a lot of people do customs now where they're adding these color shifting paint jobs and making it look a little bit more like a beetle shell, because this straight gunmetal is just it feels a little bit lacking. But on the flip side, if you can see it, we have this nice orange wash that sits in all the cracks, and it helps add this sort of like this flesh sitting in between all the joints. And so even though this, you know, beetle monster is has got this exoskeleton on, at all the joints we can see the little bits of, you know, flesh and muscle sort of poking through. So now we have these open hands here. The hands are made of a super nice material, I have to say. Like, pressing on these fingers, you can see that it's a very rubbery plastic. And so they're not bending and deforming. They're returning back to their original shape. But I think if this guy takes a tumble, I don't think you have to really worry about the tips of these fingers snapping at all. So very cool. Something I'm interested to see if these hand connections are going to be a little bit easier to port in later. The very first figure, they were the first Eliminator figure they had, it was a little bit hard. So I see the two fists we have here, and then there's very little difference between these two types of grasping hands here, you can see, but one has slightly more splayed out fingers than the other one. So I think this one would be more for like grabbing someone's head, and this one's more for like a monster claw pose. Not too much variance. I wish they maybe had gone for a different pose for this one, because it's essentially the same hand and they just shifted where the fingers were. So the hand offerings feel a little bit lacking, but nothing to really complain about. A good smattering all around. So let's put his hands to the side here. Actually, I'm realizing it now. There's an odd number of hands, which, let me double check that it's not in the pile here. Yeah, there's an odd number of hands. So he comes with two fists. He comes with two claw splay hands here, which also, yeah, two claw splay hands, and then he comes with one grasping hand. So he only gets one hand to grasp the heads of his enemies. But I am going to attribute that to the fact that while his left hand is grasping, his right hand has this giant interchangeable cannon. And this is honestly what really attracted me to this guy. I thought the sculpt looked insane, which in person, it is absolutely insane. This is so cool, this bioorganic cannon here that's sort of this tiered nature of the barrel coming out of the center of his palm is just so crazy. Feels like this spike maybe is just a little bit warped, as you can see there. That probably needs to be straightened out. You can probably do that with some hot water. But overall, I mean, the paint applications look pretty solid. Looks like I'm seeing a little bit of black over paint there, and some of the tips here are a little bit warped, but you know, in pose and everything, it's going to be pretty hard to notice and see that. So I like this a lot, and I'm interested to see how easy or difficult it is to port that on. So while we have that, we also have a couple other accessories to look at. We have this battle-damaged Manticora head here. Very, very pretty. I like the skull teeth that we can see in there. I might want to paint those silver just to bring out the contrast, but same thing, this glossy gunmetal black with this orange wash sitting through the cracks. I love these big, giant bull horns that we got coming off this guy, or maybe not even horns, maybe pincers, giant sort of mandible jaws coming out of his forehead. Very sweet. And then to complement, and honestly, I don't know where all of these go, but to complement the cannon, we do have some smoke effects here. So it looks like we have a triple peg here. So I'm going to guess that it sits with these 3 spikes. I think I've guessed correctly. And then we have a single plume peg here that would plug into the barrel very nicely, very seamless actually. There's a little stopper here on it so that you don't plug it too deep or get it stuck. But the way it lines up, it's near seamless. So I really like that, that you can't tell. And even that it fades into the red there. That's pretty cool. We have, looks like a double smoke effect. Maybe here? Or on the back side? I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, okay, this one looks like it slots on right there. I could maybe push that a little bit deeper. And this one, I don't know where this one's supposed to go. No direct, maybe this is also for the barrel, possibly. I don't see a direct way to port this one in. I'll have to look at the instruction manual later. Maybe it's a clip piece, and you just sort of balance it up. But you do have this nice smoking gun look, which is also pretty rad. I like this a lot. Like, he fires a shot, and then all the little gaps in the flesh are like exhausting the steam from the chemical reaction. Very similar to like a bombadier beetle where it sprays acid. And I think that is what they're going for here. So I like this sort of acidic burning steam coming off the arm. So putting that to the side, the last thing we have is an interchangeable battle damaged arm for the left side. And this is also pretty crazy here. So we have some plastic sitting in between the joint, and in my Unkval Eliminator squad, I did have a problem with one of them where the arm was frozen, and so I am quite interested, to see how this interchanges, how easily it does. So this is just supposed to be a whole blown off arm that's going to plug into his left side, like we saw for the cover art. And I can't tell, I mean, the whole structure of this internally looks like it should articulate, but I'm not really sure I can get any movement out of it. Everything actually seems pretty fixed, so we'll see how that goes. But there we go. We have this interchangeable arm here. So with all of his accessories out of the way, let's throw these baggies aside, and let's bring out the big man himself. And I gotta say, with the whole, with the size of this guy, and with the single arm cannon that he has, he's given me some major Megatron vibes. And I like that. I like that. I don't know if that, I highly doubt that that's what Sexy Ice was going for, but that's the vibe I got, and I'm here for it for sure. So opening up the clamshell here, pretty big clamshell. As you can see, we had 2 little sticker tabs on the sides, which I like just to keep it extra secure. Let's pull this guy out of the packaging here. So actually putting him down, we do get a couple other things. We have a whole stand. We have a basin stand, which is, which we have come to expect from Sexy Ice. So I'm glad that they continued offering us stands on this release. Although I must say, I don't know how much a waist grabber is going to do for this guy. He's massive, so we'll have to see. But we have the nice matte black stand here. Once again, it comes, I think this is different. I think before it said Eliminator. I don't have the other spare stand on me, but you can see it's a nice varnish print, gloss varnish print up top against a very nice wide matte black stand here. And then we have a peg hole for 2 different claws. And I really don't see the difference between the two. They're the exact same size. I guess it's just if one breaks, I suppose. Kind of interesting. But yeah, you get 2 claws that are the exact same size, it seems, for your stand. So now, let's get the big boy cracked open. We have a lot of protective plastic on that, which I like to see. And hopefully that means the joints move nice and smoothly. So let's pull the one out of the neck first. Let's take a look at the head. He's packaged staring down. So moving his neck up. All right, everything feels nice and smooth so far. So as you can see here, we got his big ol' head. This head actually doesn't have the teeth. Whereas this battle damaged head, you do have some teeth up on the mouth here. This is completely closed off. He's got his full battle helmet on. So very sweet. I like this eyeless look. I kind of like the vibe that maybe he's a cyclops staring through this one single slit or something. But very cool head sculpt. All the armoring and layers sitting around this head are very nice. And the plastic up here also is that same sort of semi-rubbery material. The horns look, they're pretty straight. I think this one is worked just a little bit lower, but hardly noticeable. And very durable plastic. Once again, I don't think we need to worry about it snapping at all. So we get some nice up and down movement from the base of the neck here. And we also get some side to side from the base of the neck. It seems like they've left some nice margins up here around the neck so that you're not going to be rubbing any paint or getting any of the finish stripped off. And then the face here, it doesn't seem to, he's got a little bit of up and down here. And yeah, you can tilt his head side to side. So that's very nice. So good range of motion overall, but it definitely seems like the base of the neck is where you're going to get most of that head articulation from. Moving down now to the torso, let's pull all of this plastic out. And he's got this insane multi-segmented chest here, or multi-segmented torso, I should say. So let's pull all of this out and see what we're dealing with here. So this I actually didn't expect. It looked, the sculpt to me in photos and stuff looked a lot flatter, but he's got a ton of depth and a ton of layers on this plated armor here. So beautiful, man. So beautiful. And I mean, just from the amount of plates that we pulled away, I'm interested to see how all of this segments and crunches in. So you can see this is how far he crunches forward, and then we bring it back here. So wow, a ton of back. And so looking at that, you can see all the layers we get here. And then he crunches forward and all of that tucks together so nicely. He gets such a deep bend, which exposes all of this skeletal spinal detail here. Wow, dude. I mean, this feels better. There's more segmented joints here because we have, what is this? We have 1, 2, and we have a third. We have a third to the waist. So we have, a total of 3 joints and 4 segments sitting here. And we get a much better range than the Unkval Eliminator did. So I like that we're already seeing improvements in the way the articulation is engineered here. So very nice. And just, yeah, the plating and the sculpt feels really, really good. So let's move to the arms now. Let's pull the plastic out from between these shoulder pads here. And let's see what we're dealing with for the arms. Now, if you guys remember my story, I did have a problem with the shoulders of one of my Unkval Eliminators. I actually never got it fixed because I couldn't figure out how. It was such a pain Basically the sealer that they used for the paint job here sank into one of my shoulder joints, and I tried hot water, I tried soap, I just couldn't get it solved. So one of my eliminators is kind of like half usable just because one of his arms is, you know, a bit broken essentially. So that's unfortunate, but I do have their like football hockey guy coming in, and I plan on swapping some arms out and kind of making a hybrid custom figure. So we have solutions, but yeah, it is unfortunate. So I'm hoping to see that they have updated his, you know, they've updated the articulation scheme here. They've updated some engineering, and hopefully that means better application of their sealer as well. So let's start with the shoulder joint into the base. It is still done in that amazing Yamaguchi style. And what I mean by that is, as you can see, as he rotates at an angle. And that's because this ball peg here is posted into the body at an angle, which allows it to act as a pseudo butterfly joint. So even though he doesn't have a direct butterfly hinge or like a swivel sitting inside the main torso, because the peg is at an angle, it allows him to cross over. This shoulder piece here is on a ball peg at the base into the upper forearm, and that allows him to get some really, really nice straight to 90 vertical outwards there. So really, really like that. This joint is super smooth. It doesn't feel frozen at all. And let's double check the other side. We have a very nice hinge up and outward, and our cross forward and back, super smooth as well. So now diving in here, what I'm seeing looks like to be a forearm swivel here. I'm not getting much swivel. There is a secondary ball joint from here into the base of the arm, so you can get your upper swivel there. But it is a little bit tight. Not tight as in I'm worried that I'm going to break it, but one of those things that you're not going to be able to turn it unless you're grabbing up at the forearm. From down here, unlike Marvel Legends or some other figures, you are not going to be able to turn that. It feels like a little bit too much pressure on the rest of the joints here. But we do have I guess I've been saying forearm, we got a bicep swivel, my bad. We have a bicep swivel up here. Coming down, let's look at their double jointed elbow here. And this is quite interesting because you can see this gap up here. And so his arm does need to be slightly bent to hide that gap. I don't know if there's a better way or a different way to engineer this, but it is interesting to think that they added a double, you know, because of their double elbow joint, they engineered it into the armor paneling here. Not something I would have thought about for sure, but let's see how far this bend goes. So between the two joints, we get way past 90 here. And up on the backside here, you can also see the gapping there. But overall, I think that's totally fine. He's got some nice little elbow spikes there, so he can come across with this back elbow jab and jam it into someone's eye. Pretty nasty. And quite a nice double elbow joint here. So you can see that this upper joint does, wow, it does, you know, probably a solid, you know, 70, 80 degrees, almost 90. And then this secondary joint here, which actually has the ability to go farther if you take it. Yeah, so each of these joints does about 80 degrees when fully bent. So you just get an insane range here. And I love the fact, you know, even though it's not perfectly seamless, it's not like an in-art figure, they do manage to hide it quite well into the sculpt. So very cool. Like other Unkval figures, we do have a ball joint sitting here in the forearm that allows you some forward and back movement as well as some rotation to really help you hide any joints for your photography. I think it's a great addition to the articulation and very similar to Amazing Yamaguchi as well. So we're getting some, you know, more durable joints that sort of remind me of both in art and a little bit of SH Figure Arts. But then we're getting sort of this general segmenting and articulation scheme that is much more akin to Yamaguchi. And I think that is, besides the unique nature of these figures, the draw is the sort of mixed articulation scheme that sort of pulls the best from all the different other companies that we've gotten to know over the years. So coming down to the hands here, he is posed and packed with these relaxed, sort of open palm hands. And taking a look at the wrist here, so the wrist right now is, it's a ball peg hinge. So we have our up and down. Sorry, let me get this into an easier pose for you guys to see. We have an up and, so it's currently turned to give us up and down. So we get some side to side here, and then we have this floating wrist cover piece to make up that difference in between the hand. And I think that's nice. It's a nice filler there, and it helps add some more to that extra segmented look. So now let's see how easy it is to pop off the hands. Okay, very easy. And then this floating piece, it can slide off, so be careful, but it shouldn't come off without you pulling it. And now let's take a fisted hand here, and let's see how easy it is to peg in. Because my Unkval eliminators, their hands are a bit stiff. These fists are, wow, these fists are stiff as well. All right, so all these other hands, they're just not totally fitted properly. Yeah, I can't plug this fist in. I'm gonna need some hot water to loosen that joint up a little bit. So, still not perfect. Still not perfect. Totally not out of the box, ready to play. But at least so far, no frozen sticky joints that we've seen. So now moving down to the legs here. Taking a look at the hip, we have a floating skirt piece here for the waist, and then the legs, very similar once again to that amazing Yamaguchi scheme. Actually, these are a little bit different. This is actually just on a full ball joint. Yeah, because I can kick them out. Is it? I'm actually having trouble telling. Yeah, no, it is. You can see it right in there. Bend the knee out of the way. You can see it right in there. It looks like we're just on a normal double ball joint, maybe? It's very hard to tell. Yeah, no. Yeah, because I can kick it fully forward. I can kick it fully out to the side. Yeah, so they've made an update to their hip joint here. And it was something I called interesting in my review of the Eliminator squad, if you go back and see that. But for reference, let me show you. So the Eliminator here has an interesting thing where at the base of the hip, if you ignore the thigh joint that sits here, the hip itself rotates at an angle. And that allows them to keep a very seamless look here, because this is essentially a filler piece, and it sits on a swivel that rotates at like a 45-degree angle. And then, because you can see how the leg twists out here, and then you're just supposed to make up the difference by rotating it at the thigh ball joint. And so that's together how you get him to kick out, is you rotate it out 45 degrees and then you turn it to get him in like a full normal neutral pose with his knee up. So it's a very strange way to articulate. It is very similar to sort of the way Amazing Yamaguchi angles their hips, but for standard posing and for a general user, it is a little bit counterintuitive and confusing. So I like the fact that they have moved away from that angled swivel, and now I can just kick up directly straight and out and back with no limitation and having to futz around with two different joints here. That being said, we still do have the ball joint floating around here, giving us full range of motion at the middle portion of the thigh here. So that's great. We love the extra articulation, the ability to totally force our kick out a little bit more. It doesn't come out straight to 90, but I think if we rotate the thigh to the side, yeah, you can kick out more. It's just that because the thigh armor is at an angle, if you keep him directly straight on, he won't pass 90 just due to confliction, but you can twist this and get a little bit more out of him. So now let's take a look at the knee here. We have a standard double jointed knee. And once again, joints not sticky. This is really good. So we get a full, way past 90 bend. And I love that they do this. Once again, similar to Amazing Yamaguchi, where they sculpt in a little bit of a dip into the back of the thigh so that the calf here tucks right up into it. Just totally seamless. He's got a little bit of a little knee spike there too, which is great. And now taking a look at the feet here, he's got, ooh, this is unique. Each of his toes bend. So he has toe bend, but each of his little, hoof nail things, they bend independently. So that's pretty fun. And then, so for the ankle joint here, we have a ball connection coming up into the ankle that allows you a full range of rotation. But then we have a secondary joint here that gives us a little extra forward and back independent of this ball joint and the filler piece. It's not a huge range. Honestly, it's, maybe about 10, 15 degrees at best. So it's negligible, but I like the fact that they included it and that you get a little bit of extra forward between the toe bend, between this little ankle rocker here, as well as your ball joint. So in terms of their engineering, they are really asking the right questions and asking how they can maximize articulation while still maintaining that near seamless look. And once again, I just think the design elements are so cool. I love that they're doing this multi sort of tooth serrated design that we're seeing up here in the horns. I like that motif is continued down with these 4 spikes in the calves. Very, very nice. I will say though, maybe as more lore comes out about these guys, I'm quite interested to hear and see what they are doing with the universe, because this is something I'm noticing. We're getting these little sort of dots, these little sort of indents in here, up in the armor plates, in these grooves. And it is, sorry, I keep knocking my camera. It is very similar to some of these little dots in the grooves that we get on the Unkval Eliminator, and even just the way that they do these slight curves up here in the shoulder pads, and they have these little dots tucked in to the suit design here. It definitely has this sort of bioorganic look, how smooth everything is. So seeing very similar design motifs and sort of these elements referenced to each other in the sculpting, it could just be artist interpretation, but it is kind of odd to see something on a fully, this bioorganic monstrosity having similar designs to the Eliminator, task force squadron that they're fighting against. Interesting. Just as an artist, I'm seeing that motif being consistent across the sculpts of both figures. So now it's time to get into the big questions. How do these interchangeable accessories work? And I'm a little bit nervous because, I've had sticky joints before, but this guy is pristine, man. I mean, as you know, I even love the fact that when we look at this double joint here, we don't have really gross gapping. You can really sort of fill out and angle this in such a way that it doesn't feel like there's an empty hole in the back of the elbow with the double joint. And what I mean by that too, and just talking about as they make improvements to the way they apply, their finish and the joints not sticking anymore compared to this guy who had a lot of them. This double jointed elbow here, it had no middle piece. It was just this joint. So you got this big old fat cavity in the back, and it was not pretty at all. And they did address this, and they said with their next release for their Eliminator squad, they are adding an intermediary joint here that's going to include this elbow pad so that it is a seamless transition looking at the back of the elbow, because this cup is just very ugly. And you can already see that they have applied those changes into the design of their Manticora. As well, there is still a little bit of cup and a little bit of gappiness here. It's not nearly as bad, and we do now have this intermediary elbow joint to help solve that problem and fill in some of that negative space that's left by the articulation design. All right, so enough yapping. Since we're swapping all these parts out, let's pop the head off. Very easy. And let's get his battle-damaged head on. I really wish the normal head had these skull teeth. I really like the skull teeth. And this head doesn't really want to pop in very well. There we go. Just gotta put some elbow grease into it. So for the arm cannon here, I just need to pop. Okay, very nice. Super easy light ball joint. Pops out just like so, which means we can take our arm cannon here, and we should just be able to Okay, this guy's really spiky. Actually, I'm going to remove the smoke effects for now, not to damage any paint jobs, hopefully. But yeah, this guy's kind of spiky. And some of these spikes are a bit sharp, so just heads up. But let's plug. Ooh, takes a bit of force. I don't feel comfortable with this, honestly. This feels like it's taken way more force than it took to pop the arm out. There we go. Okay, it's in. A little bit nerve-wracking, but you can do it without heating anything up. There we go. We have the arm cannon on. I don't know if I'm missing a filler piece. There is no filler piece. But you can see here that the cup of this arm cannon is really, really wide. And it leaves just a lot of this joint. And let me change my lighting a little bit here. And the peg inside there, really exposed. It's a little bit ugly. It's not awful because most of the time I'm going to have him posed up like this, you know, aiming the cannon at people. So you're not really going to be looking deep into that joint. But all things considered, it probably could have been filled in a little bit better. But I assume the cup is to allow still for a full range of motion, because if they did fill that in, he wouldn't be able to bend. And I guess they didn't want it to be a limiting factor because, yeah, he keeps all his articulation there. And that is gnarly, man. This arm cannon is so cool. But yeah, this, you know, it opens kind of up the same issue that we were talking about before, this giant fat open cavity in the back. And it does leave some of that joint exposed a little bit more than I'd like it to from certain angles. But very cool sculpt, not too bad to interchange, and I'm sure if I leave this plugged in for a while, the joint will expand, it'll loosen up, and then the swap will be a bit easier, you know, than straight out of the box. So now the question is, how hard is it to pull this shoulder out of the body? Because this is the other accessory here, is his battle damaged arm. And it should just be an up and out here. But it's not really working for me. I don't want to put too much force. I don't want to damage a paint job or anything, but we might have to call this one wraps. I'm not making much. Yeah, I don't know if I'm making any progress on it, really. All right. So that's one you're probably going to have to put this guy under a heat gun or maybe in some boiling water for, because as you can see here, this is just a straight peg into the arm, and honestly, it's a pretty deep one, which is good. We love secure connections. We want secure connections, but in the case of making this interchangeable and easy for the user, this shoulder ball peg is definitely pretty stuffed frozen in there. So we're not going to be able to preview that here, but I'll get some pictures of it later probably. So there we go for that. So I think really that brings us to the end of the review. We've taken a look at everything he comes with. It's quite nice, very impressive. I mean, the sculpt is so impressive. It's unfortunate that, you know, some of these problems are still maintained. The hands are very difficult to interchange. You know, some of their accessories, albeit very good accessories, are not necessarily ready out of the box. And ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter how good anything is, you want it to be play ready and with as little DIY self-solutions as possible. So I'm glad that they have fixed, you know, a lot of the gapping in the joints. I'm glad they have fixed the sticky joints, which was something that I personally felt was pretty notorious across all the offerings of their Unkval Eliminator squad. The paint job is fantastic. The finish is fantastic. The sculpting is great, and so is the engineering. So I think, you know, at the price point, this guy was $100. I think for $100, you know, not including international shipping and whatnot, I think I paid $120 from Bombusby. So, you know, it's a bit high. It's a bit high, but it's a pretty big figure. The articulation is quite nice, and I think for what you get, it's good. And so I think, you know, just for quality of life, looks like I have a little bit of a spot right there on the back of that arm. I can't tell if that's finish or what that is, but some kind of scuffing there. For what you get, it's very good. For what it could be, there's still a few things that out of the box could be nicer. And I will say that is something that a lot of these other import companies like SH Figure Arts And like Mayfex to a degree, I think they do a little bit better, is the out of the box readiness of the figure. Everything should interchange pretty smoothly and nicely. And so, there's some tolerances maybe and some design element choices with this guy that could be just a tad bit cleaner, but I really can't complain because this guy is so impressive. He's about 9 inches tall. Let me adjust the camera so we can stand him out here and put him up against the Eliminator. The Manticora looks great, man. Looks really, really great. He's got a nice imposing size against the Eliminator, and both of these guys are very hefty figures for their scale, considering all of this is sort of in that 1/12 scale. The Unkval Eliminators are very thick, hefty boys, and this guy now standing here at about 9 inches tall, or 8 inches tall. Just, dwarfing them looks so good. This whole set looks very good. I like this line a lot. I said I would keep buying them as long as they kept on making good figures, and so seeing the engineering improvements, the finish improvements, this guy is great for their 3rd release in this line, and I can't wait to see what they continue to bring to the table with future releases. We did get some stuff shown at WonderCon, previewed for 2026 and probably out till 2027. So I'll be here to review them all. So thank you guys for joining me for this whole unboxing experience. It's important for me to give you guys full first impressions here. I don't want to fix anything up, or this is how you will receive him. So much love to you all. Thank you for checking out the review, and I will catch you next time. Take care.